Guys, we're here to recap UNF 23. Where the hell do we start?
I don't know. Where do we start?
Todd, start us off. Where do we start with UNF 23, bro?
As I said in the open, John, the number 23 is synonymous with greatness in sports, right? You got MJ.
But I'm a big Kobe Bryant fan. I'm just gonna say Kobe Bryant.
Okay, Kobe Bryant, LeBron. I mean, pick your flavor of ice cream.
You would be wrong.
It all seems to be. It all seems to be the NBA related. But
Sure.
Here's where I'm going to start, just for the feel good moment of the night for me. I am going to start with Jason Jones Jr.
Oh, come on, Todd. Look at me. Look at me. Come on, look.
Yeah.
I got the Hawk style
shirt
on because I'm so happy for my man.
I didn't even notice that. But I mean, let me tell you, and nothing against Savaka Kopi,
No.
but as broadcasters, we're taught that we're supposed to be unbiased and impartial. But this is the Fight Family podcast, you really do become like family. And I would put Jason Jones Jr. along the line of like a Daniel Labastida, where you just like almost have to root for the guy.
Yeah. Sure, yeah.
And Jones just, if like I said on the broadcast, John, in his previous fights, if it wasn't for bad luck, the guy would have no luck at all. And it just felt good to see him turn the tide and get a win.
Yeah, there's something special about Jason Jones, just a really good guy. And I mean, that fight that he had with Gregor that he ended up losing, he was winning that whole fight, got caught with a lucky shot. And then even his fight against Diego Sanchez, I thought could have gone really either way, right? Depending on how you were looking at it.
Right. And just the fact of him, being 0-3, which our last recap podcast, I called him the best 0-3 fighter of all time. But for him to finally get that win after putting in so much hard work, taking on any challenges, and in that spectacular fashion was, it was, you always feel bad for the guy on the other end of it. But for Jason, I felt like he deserved it. He was working for it, and he got that moment.
Well, you can't take anything away from Savak. That guy is a super talented kid. Jason caught him, but it was really cool because I caught up with Jason on the phone yesterday, and he told me he dreamt about this finish. He dreamt about it, John.
Wow. Yeah, he's like Todd mentioned, and like you said, he's just too good to be 0-3.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And that's what I sent to him in a message. I said, don't get frustrated after his last loss. I said, don't get frustrated because you're too good to be 0-3. So it's eventually going to turn in your favor. Don't hang your head on this loss at all. So,
well, I think the record is all optics too, right? Like in a way. But I think Jason was a little bit down on himself, felt like he had something to prove, like inside of himself.
Yeah, I had mentioned to him two fighters that I know very well, Josh Aviles, who's retired now, and Terrion Flash Ware. They were both upside down as amateurs. And they both went on to win 20-something fights for Aviles and 18, 19 fights for Terrion Ware. Went to the UFC, for God's sake. So, sometimes the amateur career is where you're kind of figuring it out. And I think that's where Jason Jones is at now. And after that last fight, it looks like he's figured something out. So,
what do you think, Todd? Do you think he's on cloud nine?
You know what I like is after the fact, he said a lot of people, and he found a way to lose, right? He broke his hand against Connor Lesty.
Right.
He ate that, spinning back fist that'll live on forever.
And he was winning that fight
against
the whole
Gregor.
fight.
Yes.
The whole fight.
The irony of this game, one day you're the highlight reel, right? Now the next one, he's making the highlight reel. I think his knockout of Savak got the most views from Fight Night, I believe, so far.
No, and it's second. The Edgar reel. Yeah. Edgar Americanian's reel. But I have a question. How many bottles of Hennessy do you guys think he drank last night?
Well, that's
Saturday night. Yeah.
That's what I love too. Is what he said in the post fight interview. He said everybody says I effing suck. And he said I don't effing suck. And I think maybe it took this win for him to truly believe it himself. And now I do think he's on cloud nine and full of confidence. And I love that he, I think I had talked about that he was very much all business up front and party in the back. He kind of had the skull, going.
That skullet, like I was cracking up. Like, what inspired him to do his hair like that, Ryan? Like, come on.
You know what? I have no idea, but he rocks.
It worked.
Yeah, it looks good doing
Jason.
it.
Jason can pull that off.
he had like an orc haircut from Lord of the Rings,
Oh,
So I even said, I'm sure, the after party is coming with the party in the back. And then he immediately goes into Hennessy. So, I'm sure he had a good time.
He actually put on Instagram his post-fight speech, and he said, looking to get sponsored by Hennessy.
Yeah. Look, you got to love that guy. I mean, he was really fired up. He embraced the moment. You know, I think he really won over the crowd
Yeah.
with his speech.
You think so
in the
after
cage.
after he
Well,
just went
look,
like this?
he flipped everybody off. That was his moment. Then he chilled it
for sure.
off, and then came back. And I think the crowd kind of loved him. I mean, you got to root for Jason Jones.
Yeah.
How can you not?
Yeah, great kid. You know, his career is going to take off. I think this win's going to launch him. I think he's going to, you know, he may not win every fight from here on out, but he's certainly going to have the confidence moving forward that he can win the fight. You know?
Yeah, it's in the case like his we already talked about, but every fight was so close, right? Or it was right there. It wasn't like he was getting outclassed ever.
Right.
You know, he's either winning rounds, very close rounds, breaking hands in his fights. So for him to finally put in all this hard work and finally get that feeling of a W, I think it's only going to skyrocket him. So I'm very happy for Jason. But John, what was your favorite moment of UNF 23? Favorite fight? You know.
I guess my favorite fight was the Morales versus Chase Gibson, only because I was so much anticipation went into that fight. I've known both these guys for a very long time, and they've kind of been on a collision course. You know, one guy was in the UFC, one guy was trying to get in the UFC, and they were eventually going to clash. And I'm just really glad that not only did I get to witness it, but it happened in the UNF cage. I was a little salty about the finish, but I thought the referee kind of, jumped in when Chase was getting back up, and I thought it was a little bit early, but the finish probably would have followed shortly thereafter. So you can't really fault Frank Trigg for stopping it, but I think when you have two guys like that have that much experience and have been in title fights before, you kind of got to give him the benefit of the doubt. And, he did fall awkwardly from the uppercut, but he jumped right back up.
Yeah, that was a really close and tough one to say. I'm not sure if it was too early, not. I know a lot of people on social media were mad about it, and there was controversy around it. Todd, what'd you kind of think about the finish in that one?
It's really too close to call almost, but that fight, let's talk about the fight just in general first, is that, both guys came in great shape. It was the greatest shape I think I've ever seen Chase Gibson come into a fight. He just looked lean. He looked so ready.
I got to interrupt you. What about the energy at weigh-in?
Well, I was going to bring that up too.
No, I'm sorry, Todd. Like,
you guys did the weigh-in show, right? So when they were up we were on the stage, and he brought me up there because, extra security, just in case anything went down. But as they were waiting to get called up, they were just staring at each other for like 2 minutes. Straight stares. We could feel the intensity. Can you guys, when you guys were watching, the camera, you guys see the intensity?
When we had Josh Barnett on the weigh-in show, I even asked him, I'm like, there seems to be a developing rivalry between, Black House and CMMA. And he shot that down right away. He was like, they're both really good schools and they're both promoting fighters, and, eventually we're going to clash. He didn't say so, but you saw after the main event, the co-main event with Romero and Bully Romero.
Robles.
Robles.
And Robles, you saw Josh Barnett.
Johnny Sleeper.
Johnny Sleeper Robles. Yeah, sorry, Johnny. But you saw Barnett get fired up.
Well, Barnett's a class act. And, I wish everyone would conduct themselves a little bit like Josh. I think there were some shenanigans that night that I wasn't super appreciative of. I'm not going to call anybody out, but Josh conducted himself like a professional. But you want to swing us back to Morales?
Yeah, I do. Morales was in Chase's face in the weigh-in to say, "You're going to sleep. You're going to sleep," which kind of sort of came to fruition. Maybe depends what camp of thought you're in. But let's talk about the fight. I mean, that was the tale of 2 rounds.
100%.
Chase Gibson looked fantastic in the first round.
Amazing.
Completely stymied Albert Morales. Big takedown slams. Out wrestled him. Just was in no danger.
It could not have went any better for Chase besides maybe getting a submission finish or something, right? Like,
and the technique that he was using, he was keeping Morales' ankles locked together with a leg lock. And when Morales would get to the cage, because we were right next to his corner was saying, "Get your back to the cage, get your back to the cage." And even if he could get his back to the cage, he couldn't get a wide enough base to stand up because Chase kept his legs like literally pinned together. So very technical first round from Chase Gibson. He looked amazing. Just didn't go his way in the second.
Well, listen, I think that second round, Albert came out right away, got on his face, and just started throwing shots, right? He wanted to turn it into a dogfight. He started throwing shots and landed that clean uppercut and just,
But TK, did you see it going that way? After that first round, what did you expect in the second?
I thought that because again, there was just something different in the eyes and the physique and everything of chasing Cooper Gibson. And I was starting to buy in that this was his night, that he had the recipe, that he could grind out maybe 3 rounds and win that title, because nothing in that first round gave you any indication that it was going to be any different than that.
Yeah.
Both those guys wanted that fight so badly. The energy from weigh-ins till fight night, you could actually feel the energy between these guys. And none of it was fluff. They believed it. I mean, I couldn't call that fight going into that fight. They both seemed to want it so badly.
Yeah, especially Albert. I mean, he's on a mission to get back to the UFC, right? And achieve his dreams and goals. So, you knew after that first round, he was going to come out swinging and going for it, right?
Right.
And he kind of had to just say, he still looked technical, but he was like, all right, F this. I'm
that looked technical. He just went for it. Bro. He just let those fly.
A chaos. Yes, it was a little chaotic, but he let it fly. But I think he knew he had to make it a dogfight.
It was
he
smart.
Had to clip him. He had to change something, right?
I think Albert kind of had visions in after that first round of his fight with Javier Garcia.
That's why I was kind of
and
thinking
he was like,
watching
I am not going out like this. I'm not going to get dominated for 3 consecutive rounds. And I don't know what his corner said, but they must have said something to get him fired up in that corner, because like Todd said, it was a tale of 2 rounds. It was a completely different Albert Morales in that second round.
Yeah, he just really went for it. So going back to weigh-ins, it was a little bit of a shit show for one fight that fell off the card. Axel Conrad did not make weight, missed weight by 5 pounds.
Yeah.
Didn't really sit well with me because his opponent, John Chandler, carried himself like a class act. First time fighting with the promotion, and his fight falls out. What do you guys think about that?
Well, I heard he was kind of talking smack after missing weight by 5 pounds. And if that's true, then, that's pretty pathetic, because if you got to act as an amateur, you have to act as professional as you possibly can be. Nobody fights as an amateur just for the hell of it. They're trying, especially Axel. He's trying to get to the pro ranks. He wants to be a pro fighter. And if you want to be a pro fighter, you got to make weight. Yeah. And if you miss weight, you should be humble in missing weight.
I agree with that wholeheartedly.
You shouldn't be talking smack.
I mean, Axel said he missed weight. And he took accountability a little bit, but then was also talking to smack. And
5 pounds isn't a small miss.
I have a big problem with missing weight nowadays, because if you look at one of Johnny Robles' losses, was at UNF when his opponent came in, missed weight by 8 pounds, and Johnny still took that fight. And unfortunately, Johnny, ended up losing that fight. Yep. So after that moment, I get a little pissed when guys are missing weight by that amount, TK.
Yeah, well, 100%. And if I'm not mistaken, Axel Conrad is somebody that has had hopes for a Rising Stars title fight. And so how can you trust him in a title fight when, if you're going to miss weight, then all of a sudden you're not eligible for the title to be on the line, and only your opponent is. And then, that really screws up a title fight. So, and one thing that I noticed too is looking back and watching and looking at the comments on the weigh-in show is somebody had mentioned what happened to the Axel fight.
Yeah.
So now you've got maybe family, friends, fans that are excited to see you weigh in and see how that, and excited to watch you fight the next day, and you rob them of that.
All that, right? But the person I feel bad for most is John Chandler, his opponent, right?
Yeah, he put in the work.
And the little backstory, since we're already talking about it, I mean, John Chandler is naturally a 145er. He agreed to fight at 150 and fight someone that was bigger than him, as long as they can meet in the middle, and it was all good. And then when your opponent that's already supposed to be bigger than you, heavier than, misses weight by 5 pounds, I mean, I don't blame John Chandler for not taking that fight whatsoever, right?
Not at all.
And he was visibly pissed off, but he was also very professional about it, handled it the right way. And I have so much respect of how he handled it. But you feel bad, man. These guys put in 2 month training camps. Their amateurs are not getting paid yet, and they just want to get the experience. And it gets taken away from them when guys are missing weight. And, if you are going to miss weight by 5-6 pounds, let your promoter know 2, 3, 4, 5 days before the
other thing I want to chime in a little bit on is, Up Next is not a regular promotion, in my opinion. We run a very professional organization, and the fighters that are fighting with us, we expect them to make weight. They need to make weight, right? We're giving them a great platform. If they want to fight with us, they need to be making weight. They need to conduct themselves, whether they're quote unquote an amateur or rising star or professional.
Yeah.
Do the work. Have respect for the promotion. Have respect for your opponent also. So as you guys could tell, this one did not sit well with me. So,
and I'll just say, Axel said he had the flu, and that was a partial thing to it. But I'm just throwing it out there because that's what he told me. So I'll let you guys in on that. But I totally agree with you, Pops. I think it's unprofessional. I feel really bad for the fighter on the other end of it.
Yeah.
And especially to kind of go out there and start talking shit to your opponent for not taking the fight with your fight.
Because I'm up on stage, I'm kind of watching a little chaos, a little chirping over there. I mean, look, we all make mistakes in life. own your mistakes, be self-aware, make amends, make it right. He should have just
He should have
apologized,
took
done
accountability.
the right thing, zipped the lip, and moved on to the next.
Well, and for Chandler, he handled it the right way, because now I know you as the Rising Stars matchmaker are going to go above and beyond trying to find this guy a
100%.
fight.
I talked to his manager that same day and just let him know, hey man, we are very sorry about this. Not the type of show we want to run. Or, fight.
Yep.
We don't want our fighters to work like this. We'll make it up to you guys. We want to have them on. It's been a pleasure, at least trying to get you guys a fight. And they had nothing but nice things to say about us and how we're running things. And it's just how the game goes sometimes, man. But I'm not a fan when fighters miss weight, and especially the way it was kind of handled after. I don't think is the right way to do it.
Yeah. All right. Which fight you guys want to talk about next? TK, pick some. What do you want to talk about, bro?
Let's talk about Edgar Amirkhanian, and he continues to dominate. And
Well, can we talk about him wanting to fight me at UNF 100? What's up with that?
I think I said on the broadcast,
Yeah, you did.
Ryan better start training right now.
Wait, you think I need to start training? Why do you think he wants to wait till UNF 100?
It's
He
gonna get
needs to
here
work on
pretty
his
quick.
skills and get a little bit better. But
Fair
no,
enough.
but let's actually talk about. I mean, in the UNF cage, 3-0, 3 first-round TKOs. What do you guys think should be next for Edgar Amirkhanian?
Well, if he keeps doing what he's doing, he's not going to be in UNF for UNF 100. So, I mean, he's got a bright future. He's
calling for a title shot. You think it's a little too premature for him to get a title shot?
what's he 3-0 now?
He's 3-0, 3 finishes.
3-0, maybe one more, depending on how the division's shaken up with other people and their records. If there's anyone that kind of matches up with him, then maybe it makes sense. But that's why you get paid the big bucks, brother.
Yeah, that's right.
TK, I want to talk about a little bit Edgar's fight. Jesse Walker steps up 1 day's notice
Oh yeah, that's a
to
good
fight a guy like Edgar who's, got a reputation, who's undefeated. Jesse Walker had just fought a few weeks prior, stepped up to fight Edgar. Like, I have the utmost respect for this kid.
Yeah, I mean that's a warrior spirit, and it's the age old, don't get ready, be ready.
Yep.
He took the fight, against a guy that has been unstoppable, that's been a killer.
Yep.
And stood up, and but Edgar, another guy that just looked like he got shot out of a cannon, no feeling out process. Just and again, that might catch him at some point against the wrong opponent.
Right.
But just pieced him up, piston like punches. That's one where, the ref did not give a whole lot of leniency. He was like, nope, that's going to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And which there's other things to discuss about the flip side of that later in the card, with Rojas. But again, Edgar's on, has got the rocket pack on his back right now.
Yeah.
And, maybe 3-0 with 3 first-round finishes, I believe, might be still a little premature, but he's exciting. And obviously, eventually it'd be great to see him in title
I
fight.
think Edgar's got that it factor. I'd like to see him fight some tougher opponents with some more experience to really test himself, right? So whether he takes you give him a title shot next, Ryan, or whatever that looks like. But I think Edgar is definitely something special. I mean, he is just such a character.
Yeah, he's very technical for someone that only has 3
Yeah.
fights under his belt. I mean, he sits back on his punches. He stays
good.
over his feet. He times his takedowns well. He's very, very fundamentally sound as a fighter goes. And usually in the amateur ranks, especially when you're a little short in the tooth with only 3 fights like that, you see guys making, emotion-based mistakes, being in the cage and adrenaline dumps, they overcommit or something like that. He doesn't seem to do that. He seems to have 100% calmness about his fight and
John, you're saying all this with a guy
I like
probably
that
doesn't
he's
have
going
more
to
than
the
1
second
minute of cage time. in
I
every
know,
fight.
I know. He doesn't have a lot of time in the cage, but the very short film that we've gotten to see.
Sure.
Listen, I want
he's
Edgar
very
fighting on
technical.
every card because in between a couple fights, his dad gave me a shot of tequila.
I actually
Oh,
saw that.
nice.
I don't think I've ever seen you take a shot at one of our events.
Listen,
until
I
this last
love Edgar's dad. I love the vibe that the guy brings. He's just a really good cat. So, he saw me working hard, so just gave me a shot of
Now you're
tequila.
going to have to join us for our pregame before we start.
No,
Yeah.
bro. I got to
It's
be on my
over
game.
now.
I have the most important job in the company. I work the cage door. I'm very important.
We couldn't do it.
Got to be on my game.
Well, let's talk about really quick. So we talked about Walker taking the fight with 1 day notice. Somebody that has done that, at UNF 22 was Leonardo Montiel. Let's talk about what a story this guy
Oh
is.
boy.
I mean,
like this one.
This guy looks
Todd.
like he's chiseled out of granite.
Yeah.
He took a fight 1 day notice at UNF 22 against Isaac Enriquez, a former Rising Stars lightweight champion.
That's
Yeah.
Okay. And then and in a close, decision, at least it was a unanimous decision win for Montiel, but I think the fight was
That could
definitely
have went
close.
either way. Yeah,
could have
it was
gone
very
either way.
close. Yeah.
But again, didn't have the butterflies, didn't have the nerves, just so powerful with the takedowns against Enriquez. And then, it's like, okay, was that a fluke? Are we going to see what this guy's made of? And was under heavy pressure in this fight and then bounced back. And I mean, this guy is so powerful, is Leonardo Montiel. Some just nasty, nasty ground and pound, man. Just putting in the work.
Yeah, no, I think so. I think really his best attribute is he's just a dog.
Yes.
There's no quit in him.
Yep.
I mean, he's skillful everywhere, but when you watch it, like, he's going to come forward, he's going to give you what he has, and there's no quit in him whatsoever. That first round, he got hit with a bunch of shots, got dropped. And, sometimes, especially in the Rising Stars ranks, you see guys get hit, it's not going their way. You see this look in their face, right? Look at defeat or whatever. You will never see that in Leonardo Montiel.
Dude, Anthony Vardumian is no joke.
No, he's not.
I mean, he looks
gonna be
so
freaking
good. And I just feel Leonardo just wanted it more. Like, I think you said it, Ryan, the guy is a dog. He just gets better as it goes on, Like, he was reversing positions. Like, he really impressed me.
Yeah, and Vardumian's the type of guy that likes to fight off his front foot. He likes to move forward himself. So I think he had a problem with Montiel coming forward the whole time because he had to fight off that back foot. And as you guys know, that's a little different than fighting in your comfort zone. So
he wouldn't know about that.
Yeah.
I know nothing.
Montiel did a great job of taking him out of
Yeah.
his comfort zone and putting him in a place where only Montiel could win. So,
But Todd, you talked about it. I mean, how does he do that against Isaac Enriquez and now Anthony Vardumian?
Well, and that's the thing too, is he is a guy, Leonardo Montiel, that is taking full advantage of the opportunities that Up Next has given him.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
Two tough opponents.
100%.
Because Vardumian came out flying and dropped him, put him on his butt. And then it's like, well, now let's see what this guy's really all about. And he answered, and it's so 2 straight wins in UNF, back-to-back shows, right? Unanimous decision wins. So he's banking some cage time too.
Cage time, and then you already brought it up.
He's got huge credibility now with me.
Again, the debut fight versus Isaac Enriquez is nuts. I get it.
When I heard we made this fight against Isaac, I'm just like, this guy's a debuter. I'm like, okay.
They beat a former champion,
And then
Isaac is a beast.
And Anthony Vardumian, I know he only had one fight at the time, and in like 30 seconds. But if you know anything about those guys and that young group they have at KD, they're all top prospects. They're all really, really good. So to beat someone like Anthony Vardumian and Isaac Enriquez, I mean, we're talking about Edgar a title shot. I think Montiel, if he could put another performance on against a good guy, he's right there for a title too.
I would have to say so.
Yeah.
I would just have to say so.
Yeah. And Montiel looks like he could belong in my other line of work in the pro wrestling world.
Dude,
this guy is jacked. And I know we talked about the skullet, right? With Jason Jones Jr. Let's talk about the hair of Montiel. Last time he looked like a surfer from Palos Verdes. Yeah. This time, just the clean shave, and he came out looked like a machine, didn't he?
Yeah. He looked cold as ice this time.
It's really cool. He's the nicest guy. He rolls with his girlfriend at every event. They're super tight. Just talking, just a super kind hearted guy. I mean, he just has a love and a passion for doing this. I think he would pretty much fight anybody that you put in front of him. He really has.
I was like, are you even second guessing that?
No, I mean, like, what a dumbass thing for me to say. I mean, he really has.
Like anybody, not only anybody, but any time.
Isaac Enriquez,
but not just Isaac Enriquez and Anthony Vardumian. Isaac Enriquez, a tough fight, and you have 3 weeks only to fight Anthony Vardumian after, right?
Yeah.
The time frame it all is nuts too. So I can't say, enough good things about him. He's a dog.
You know what's kind of cool? Like, the roster is so heavy with guys like that, though.
Yeah.
With super talented, good people. What are we going to talk about next?
Let's talk about Isaac Enriquez.
Let's do it.
Let's talk about Isaac Enriquez. Yeah, I mean, listen, his fight with Brandon, I knew that 2 top-level guys.
Yep.
Didn't go his way, but, he still showed good skill. And Isaac's one of those guys, any given night, anyone he fights, he could get a W in that fight. Right now, though, he is on a little skid, John. What do you think he has to do in this next fight? What do you think he has to do to really regroup and come back to get a W?
I think it's just confidence, to be honest with you, because he's got the skill set to be really good at this game. He's got the stand-up. He's got the grappling, good wrestling skill. He has a different look on his face than he did when he was a champion. And I think that might be a result of coming up short on a couple of fights.
Yeah.
I mean, if I was his coach, I would tell him, keep doing what you're doing, but you got to find a way to get your confidence back. And that's something internal. That's not something anybody can give to him. He's got to find a way to get his confidence back. And, there's no better way to do that than get right back on the horse and, get right back out of the corral and start riding again. So I'd like to see him get back in the cage as soon as possible. He needs to punch somebody in the face as quickly as possible. I mean, it's as simple as that. If he can hit somebody really hard in the face and get a big win or a knockout or something like that, then we're going to see that shine in his eyes again. He won a title earlier in his career, and now he's kind of floundering a little bit, but I think he's good enough where if he can find his confidence, he'll be right back.
So I disagree. I don't think Isaac's floundering, in my opinion. I really look at him. Yeah, he may have had these losses or whatever, but
He's always
look at who he's fighting.
He's fighting the toughest guys.
Now,
right?
Leonardo, I really think the fight against Leonardo, that one could have gone either way. So TK's like, inches, right? Totally agree with that. But then his last fight, Brendan Farnsworth, is a phenom.
Yep.
Yeah. And so to Isaac's credit, he could have been looking for an easier fight. But to really step up and fight a guy like Brendan Farnsworth.
Trading center guys, you think they look for any type of fights?
No.
Those guys take whoever, whenever.
Dogs.
They do not give.
Dogs.
Yeah. But so I look at it differently. I mean, I look at Isaac in that sense, like, losing to Brendan Farnsworth like that, I don't have a
There's
problem
another little
with it.
storyline.
The toughest guy.
I totally agree. I mean, I have the most respect for Isaac, but Isaac Enriquez and Edgar Amirkhani were tripping on Instagram talking about a potential fight.
Oh.
Run that. Yeah, so Isaac basically was challenging Edgar, saying he really hasn't fought anybody worthwhile, TK. Isaac wants that heat from Edgar.
Yeah, Isaac also mentioned to Edgar that he would take his last brain cell if they did fight. Edgar responded saying, "You're 1-3 in your last couple fights. Get a win and fight me for the belt." So that's where that stands. But what do you guys think about potential, Edgar versus Isaac matchup?
Well, careful what you wish for, but but we just talked about Amirkhani needs to step up, and that would be a big step up. And I think he would potentially, because 2 straight losses, he might underestimate Isaac Enriquez. But let me talk a little bit more about Enriquez really quick, because in my estimation, as much as I love what Leonardo Montiel has done, I think a case can certainly be made that Isaac Enriquez won that fight with Montiel.
Yeah, that was close.
Did more damage, definitely won the striking battle. Yes, he got muscled around and taken down. But let's just play devil's advocate. Let's say, now Enriquez did exactly what you said he should do. Get right back in the saddle and try and punch someone in the face.
Yep.
But let's say Isaac Enriquez wins that fight with Leonardo Montiel. Is he going to rush back into the cage and fight on UNF 23? Or did he do that really because he just wanted to get that bad taste
Excellent point.
out of his mouth? I think the trajectory of Enriquez would have been vastly different if he had won that fight with Montiel. And now he slipped on a banana peel again. But Farnsworth, I mean, let's not discredit Farnsworth. The cleaner needed to come back fight too, right? He lost to Western Quiros in a title fight. His striking looked vastly improved. He was outstriking Enriquez and then controlled it on the ground. The cleaner controlled that fight wherever it went.
Brendan like a new beast to me, and he's always looked great, but there was a new animal this time around. To be honest.
His striking has certainly improved markedly since his last fight. So that's what I'd look for in fighters, not necessarily wins and losses, but how much they improve from fight to fight. And he had a vast hole in his striking game. Great grappler, great jiu-jitsu pedigree, but he seemed to have problems getting the fight to the mat. And one of the best ways to get the fight to the mat is you throw hands in the face, and then you change levels. When they go to protect, they go high, you go low. And he did that. He executed that game plan. He had versatile takedowns. He had a nice outside trip, or an inside trip rather, where he laced the leg and was able to get Enriquez, who was trying to get away, to the mat. So he looked very, very potent as a striker getting into the grappling situation. And if he can keep doing that, then the sky's the limit for that kid.
Yeah, I think he flowed really good. Like all the martial arts were mixing for him that night, right? Like everything was flowing, everything had purpose. Yeah, he looked like a beast. And the 155 Rising Stars division is kind of exciting right now with Brandon getting another win. Talking about Edgar Amirkhani and Isaac's always.
So what are you gonna do with it?
I got options, but I have not made a decision yet. I mean, we'll have a matchmaking meeting soon because you're the real big boss. You're gonna tell me what fight to make. But there's a couple
I have no
things to
freaking
do.
say around here, guys. That's for sure. TK, I do want to hit on something a little bit, and this is kind of a sore subject for me, right? Like leaving it in the hands of the judges.
Yes.
Right? Like you talk about Montiel and Enriquez and how a loss can change somebody's trajectory. You've been doing this 15 plus years, bro. I mean, Any advice to these guys? I mean, when I get my pep talk in the back, I always just say, don't leave it in the hands of the judges. And I'm not trying to shit on the judges, right? I think judging is a hard job. I think reffing is a hard job, but God, it's such a brutal sport if they get that loss.
Well, it's tough because, you know, you would hope that the judging is fair and true. And then you have some fighters that the bread and butter is to grind it out and just win in the fight in deep water, or if it goes the distance. You don't want a guy to get overzealous and overaggressive and get caught. And that can happen if you're like, I need to finish this or I might get screwed over on the card. So it's a tough balancing act. You know, it really is. And I'm not saying that Enriquez got screwed. It's just the way I saw it. I would have, it's pick your flavor of ice cream, right? The judges obviously like the takedowns, the cage control that Montiel had in that fight.
Yeah.
I would have put more emphasis on the striking and the damage.
Yeah.
But it's just the way it goes. And it is tough. But it's at least easier to swallow when it happens as a rising star
100%.
To where you're learning. And once they make that jump to pro, that's gonna, you know, you're gonna have a clean slate.
Yeah, you're not losing money as a rising star, right? As a pro, you're losing that win bonus potentially. But if you're gonna win, you got to win convincingly. You can't just win by inches, right? You gotta win convincingly.
Yeah.
Which
Easier
fight
said than done, but you gotta
listen.
do
It's
it.
very easy for me to sit here with you guys and talk when I've never gotten in there and
No,
really
I
done it on that
wholeheartedly
level.
agree
You know what I mean?
with what you're saying. It's just, you know, it's a lot harder said than done, but it's what you got to do to ensure you're going to get that W, or to make sure there's no doubt of what the judges are seeing.
Yeah,
or what
but
the
you know
outcome's
what?
gonna be.
That it shouldn't be that way. You know what I mean? And to quote Ben Folks, who's a great writer, used to write for MMA Junkie, he's like, why does scoring have to be this convoluted math equation where you add striking divided by wrestling takedowns divided by the square root of Cecil Peoples? You know what I mean? Like, it makes no sense. Like, these people are, you have judges that don't know combat sports. They're in there because of political positions. And in the amateur division, you not only have amateur fighters, you have amateur judges. And these judges sit on 3 different sides of the cage. And sometimes Todd and I are wondering, what fight were you watching? Like, honestly, what fight were you watching? We scored Montiel Enriquez. We had Enriquez winning the fight purely because of damage. Montiel was busted up. He was bleeding. Enriquez landed the more damaging shots, and yet they scored it for takedown and cage control. And if you hear what California Athletic Commission says all the time, is damage gets scored first. Damage is number 1. And if you don't score damage, then you revert to cage control, and then you revert to controlling the real estate, as we like to say. But damage should always be scored first. And it's, you know, it's a shame sometimes that it's not.
And if I can bring up a point really quick, I think you saw the opposite in Stone Lavelle and De Camargo here, right? Because Camargo absolutely out-wrestled Lavelle in the first round, and it sounds like De Camargo's camp wants a rematch.
Well, De Camargo definitely wants a rematch, and the judges even scored that fight 30-27 for 2 judges, meaning that 2 judges had Stone winning that first round, which I didn't agree with.
But that's
in real time.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
There's no way that
There's
De
no way.
Camargo did not completely out-grapple and win that first. I don't remember Stone doing virtually anything in the first round.
Second and third round, though, I think I edged it to Stone. I mean, third round for
100%.
sure. Second round was really close,
But
yeah.
that's what I'm saying. If you buy into the camp of De Camargo that they had a case that they won by grappling, the judges clearly in that case favored the damage and the striking by Stone Lavelle. And you could see it after the fight. The corner of De Camargo had to, you know, hold him up. Lavelle did a lot of damage and retained the title. And the one thing I love about that fight was kind of fun is you had Anstill and New, because he defended the Rising Stars title and he won the California State.
Well, he was actually previously the California State title.
Yeah.
It should have been Anstill.
All right.
It just wasn't. I'm not going to get into it, but it just wasn't. But totally agree. It's kind of cool. The Anstill and then New.
You know, one of the things that can't be lost in that fight is, even though De Camargo had Stone on his back, Stone was the one threatening with submissions from his back. He had a couple armbar, I believe. He almost had a triangle locked in. And, you know, De Camargo may have won the wrestling game, but he didn't do a lot of damage with it, you know?
Sure.
He controlled position, he controlled the real estate, but he didn't do the damage. And when he did have Stone on his back in a bad position, Stone was the one that was threatening with the submissions.
Yeah.
So I think the judges may have scored that. I don't know how the hell they scored the first round.
I like TK. I like the point you bring up. I just wish you know, it's a hard job, and I'm not shitting on any judges, but I just wish there was a little more consistency with how the fights are being judged, right?
I could never be a judge, you guys, because Ryan and I have said at the cage store, I'll be like, oh, so-and-so's doing really good. He goes, are you kidding me? The other guy's winning. Like, I think being a judge is a very, very tough job.
Yeah.
I mean, there was even a knockout. I think it was, just lost my thought. Oh, it was Jason Jones's knockout, right? I honestly, that night, I felt that was a quick stoppage. But then I watched it back. Super clean stoppage.
That one was not.
No,
he dropped him and he got him with a hammer fist for good measure.
This is how lame I am, though. This is what I'm trying to say. This is how lame I am. That night, I'm like, well, that was kind of quick. You know, they should have let, Sevak recover. But then I watched the stream after. I'm like, nope, super clean stoppage.
Next time I get beat up, you can be the judge, okay?
But again, I think
I'm not qualified. I'm telling you now, I can work the cage door. I'm not qualified to be a ref or a judge.
You're the best cage door worker in the world.
Oh, I love it. You do it with style. But I mean, it has to be mentioned though that I think the judges got it right that Stone Lavelle definitely won that fight, and you have to, I think, to dethrone a champion, you have to decisively beat a champion.
Yeah.
But
but the
know,
scoring.
You guys agree with that statement though? Like people say you got to take the belt from the champion. Isn't the ruling criteria by round,
Just
and
down
whoever
the middle.
wins the rounds, right?
Yeah. Like, I mean, I understand what they're saying. Like,
sure,
it almost goes back to what we were saying about Morales and Chase. When you have fighters that have that much experience, you got to give them the benefit of the doubt. And when you come down to, champion versus challenger, the challenger has to take the belt from the champion, not the other way around. The champion's already the one with the belt. So the challenger's got to do something spectacular to take that belt
100%.
away. If
but
the
the
fight's
champ
close,
shouldn't have an extra point because he's the champ.
no,
right? Like,
no.
Yeah, like
And he should have had one less point on two of those scorecards. That fight should have 100% been 29-28.
Yeah, absolutely.
When I heard 30-27s, I'm like, wait, what is going on?
And when there were two of them,
there
weren't
was two of them,
yeah.
So, but I think it was a very close fight. When I rewatched it, I think I edged that second round to Stone because of the damage he was doing from his back. And that third round was for sure Stone's, but really close fight. DeCarmargo wants that rematch.
Would you make that fight again? Would you guys want to see that fight again?
I think. Well, DeCarmargo's like now he's 6-2, I believe, or 5-2. But let's see what else is out there. But I thought that was a great fight, and I think both camps will be even more prepared now, so it might even be a better fight.
TK's got something to say.
However,
Go ahead, TK.
When the corners gripe and they get a rematch for a title, it doesn't exactly work out. Just ask Insane Zane Palacio.
Well, listen, I give props to Zane for wanting to challenge himself to go against Pargev again, though. Let's talk about that one, TK.
Pargev, as he said, he has nothing more to prove. He cleared out his division.
Agreed.
He's got one blemish on his record, and what I love about that is he was able to erase that.
Shouldn't even be on his record.
That should not.
That was yes.
I think the fight that he won, according to the judges, was closer than the one that he lost.
Yeah,
honestly,
quote unquote lost. I put finger quotes on that one.
Yeah, that was a tough one.
Unstoppable ever since, though. But what I'm saying is, I love that he got that monkey off his back because he got to avenge that loss right in the UNF cage. But then he's been unstoppable ever since, and gets another title defense, first round submission. And made history, said, hey, I've proven myself as a rising star. It's time to make the jump. What do you guys think about the Armenian soldier going pro?
He didn't just get the submission. He put Zane to sleep.
Yeah, no, he did.
Technical submission, yeah.
I mean, I love that Zane was eager to get that one back, the competitiveness, the drive, and just wanting to get it back. But when you're facing a guy like Pargev, man, it's no easy task. Like,
listen, I love Ian Harris, Zane's coach, is just like, okay, I'm okay with this now.
Yeah.
He finished him. I'm okay with it now. I'm not going to complain.
Yeah. Well,
but
that's a
props to
first.
Zane. Well, listen, Ian is very opinionated.
He's very passionate about his fighters.
He cares about his guys. He's very passionate about everything. I love it.
And I have seen his fighters get screwed in the past. So
yeah,
with
honestly,
bad
there has been
decisions.
times where he's frustrated, and I could be like, you know what, I understand.
Ian will look at me with his hands up
I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Well, I think some people are under this misperception, right? Like that the promotion picks the judges or the refs or anything. We don't get to pick the refs. We don't get to pick the judge. We have zero say. We just have to pay them.
Yeah.
But the commission picks who comes, not us.
Speaking of
Pargev, though, looks ready in your estimation. I would
Oh
assume.
God, yeah.
I think he's looked ready
He
3
looked ready
fights
for a
ago.
while now.
But I was
Yeah.
happy he kept fighting as a rising star, but I think it's definitely the right time.
Yeah.
He put a picture up of himself in bed with like 9 different UNF titles and California state titles. Like, come on, man.
but
He's got more belts than the strap hangers do in New York City, for God's
But
sake.
Todd, what do you think about Parga beyond skill? He's like the complete package, the character, the personality.
Yeah, I mean, when he came out, as a Spartan the one time, and he came out as a samurai. I mean, initially, you never would have thought he would have had that kind of personality, and showmanship. Now, one thing you always talk about is the importance of being a brand and branding yourself, and I think Pargev, as a rising star, just is the poster boy for that, because he has become a bona fide star and carries himself like a star, outside of Albert Morales, who was the first ever UNF champion and now is back on the top of the heap. I don't know if many guys have made more history in the cage, UNF cage, than Pargev, or made the most of his time in the cage, including, proposing, and apparently got married like that. And we never got an invitation to the wedding. But
Did the wedding happen?
I don't know, but I didn't get any cake.
Oh, it hasn't?
But if I don't
Because
get
he
an
said
invite,
my wife.
I'm
So-
going to be a little hurt. Well, I mean, maybe, some people
you
just-
guys have given that guy more gold than the jewelry store,
Yeah,
for God's sakes.
I actually
You better
might
get
I
invited
might
to the
say that
wedding.
if I
I haven't given him any of that.
Yeah,
That
he's earned
guy
it,
has
true.
earned every bit of it. And one thing I just like about him, he gets it. He's a great. I look at Pargev as a partner. It's a mutually beneficial relationship. This guy entertains the fans. I mean, he's making UNF look amazing. And I think the coolest thing for me, Ryan, is looking at this guy starting as a rising star, turning him pro. I think if this guy goes on a 5-fight win streak, he'll be getting a call.
Yeah, I don't even think it'll take 5. I mean, if he goes 4-0 as a pro, I wouldn't be surprised if he got a short notice
the
call.
really cool
Yeah.
thing about Pargev is he's obviously a wrestler and a grappler, but he knows how to finish fights, and he's exciting too.
Yeah.
It's not just grind you out for 3 rounds or whatever it may be. He's looking for the finish at all times. The pace, 110%. Cardio's great. You
Yeah.
never see him gas out, even the 2 fights and 3 that were 3 rounds. So yeah, I think he's gonna be right there. And it's cool. We talk about Pargev, how important it is to build your brand.
Yeah.
When Pargev first started with us, I mean, he wasn't really out there on social media and whatnot. Kind of took the advice and saw what Up Next was doing and kind of implemented that for himself.
Right.
And look at him now. I think it's a great example for guys that are coming up in their careers and what good looks like, to be honest.
Yeah, he came out of his shell, and he carries himself like a star, and that's the thing. Who from UNF, has gotten the call? Taco Padilla. That guy, when he fought for us, came out in the Jason Voorhees mask and had,
Yeah.
so had a machete and is an exciting fighter, finishes people.
Yeah.
Right. And so he got the call. That's why Anthony Romero was on the short list to get the call. Did his stock drop? We'll have to talk about that. I don't know, tough break.
Let's go there now.
Yeah. So Anthony Romero, had been unstoppable. 5 wins in the UNF cage.
Yeah.
Was coming off of an armbar victory over Brendan Michael Spencer, who gave him a challenge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And then, we were talking to, and it just seemed like Johnny Sleeper Robles' camp foresaw this happening, because, you had both Victor Henry and Josh Barnett saying the bully hasn't been hit the way that the sleeper is going to hit him. And we saw that happen.
Very true.
It seemed to catch the bully off guard. He was shaken early, but I mean, man, oh man, is there's no one tougher than Anthony Romero.
Yeah, and we'll talk about Johnny Robles' performance in a sec, but Anthony Romero, right? I don't think he's ever faced that kind of adversity in a fight. That first round, maybe a 10-8 round potentially, right?
I think it was 10-8.
Damage,
Yeah.
control. For him to come back in that second round, he dropped Robles. Robles dropped him back. But you can't question the heart and grit of Anthony Romero, and I think he got to show that to a lot of fans. He didn't get the W, obviously, but we saw a side of Anthony Romero we haven't really had to see in the UNF cage before.
But one thing, and I don't want to take anything from Robles, right? He is a champ, earned and
Robles
deserved,
looked freaking amazing.
looked amazing, executed his game plan perfectly. But in my opinion, the bully looked off to me.
He did.
He looked off to me. It didn't seem like the bully was there and the regular bully.
Do you think that was after he got dropped within the first 30 seconds? Do you think it was
No.
any of that, or was it the lead up and
No,
everything?
the bully's taken damage before. Brad Dallas pieced him up a little bit. The bully's been there. I'm not saying, to somebody of Robles' caliber,
Right.
but in my opinion, the bully just looked off.
Both the fighters came and took the center of the cage right away. But one of the things I noticed about Romero is he wasn't moving forward like he normally does. He was waiting, and it almost seemed like he wanted to have a little bit of a feeling out process. And Johnny was like,
did
no,
say,
no, 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 no.
feeling out for us.
No feeling out for us, because it almost seemed to me like he never got started.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
that. Like,
Yep.
and then, you know, towards the end of the fight, when he was starting to gas out, I remember I said to Todd, I was like, you know, it seems like the engine's running, but there isn't really somebody at the wheel at this point. You know, like he wasn't executing his game plan. He wasn't moving forward. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not trying to take anything away from Johnny Robles, but it just didn't look like the Anthony Romero that we're used to seeing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
No, I could see that. But, you know, again, we don't know what, you know, he probably was a lot. We don't know what it was and what was going on. But you know what? Johnny Robles was on
That's
that
right.
night.
And none of it matters, right?
No,
Because
no.
these guys have their moment. The fight is at that time in that cage, and the better man wins that night.
Yep.
Whoever's on the game that night.
I have a few questions though. So I think you're right. I don't think, you know, Romero looked like himself, but obviously as the fight wore on, he continued to battle back and showed
Yes.
his toughness. So one question, just kind of, you know, fantasy booking, right? Let's just say that we had championship rounds. Let's just say that was a 5-round fight. I believe there is an excellent chance because Romero was surging. He just ran out of time. He was in too big of a pit to climb out of. We know how tough he is. We know he's like the Energizer Bunny. He's going to keep going. I think that if that is a 5-round fight, there is a excellent chance that Romero finds a way to win that fight.
I disagree. And I mean, I appreciate your
It's all
point.
right to
but,
disagree with TK,
yeah.
bro.
I honestly think that third round game plan that Robles had was because he already had 2 rounds in the bank.
Mm.
You know, I think he came out in cruise control in the third round. His corner said, "Don't do anything stupid. Don't get hit. Try to avoid, you know, getting into
they bully can
exchanges."
still put anyone's lights out with one punch if you're getting reckless or
Right.
doing anything
And,
crazy.
and
right?
if it was a 5-round fight, I don't think they would have been telling him that in the corner. I think they would have been saying, "Listen, you still got."
When you guys were watching the fight, who seemed like they were? Did Robles seem a little gassed in that third round? Was there anything else that
No, he didn't seem gassed. He just seemed to have taken his foot off the gas.
Gotcha.
You know, and you know, rightfully so, because he banked 2 rounds and one of them was a 10-8. So he would have to lose spectacularly that third round in order for it to be close. And I think he just came out and did just enough to lose the round 10-9 to Romero. I definitely scored the round for Romero. It was his best round. But I think some of it was because Johnny kind of was not engaging, you know.
Because it was a 3-round fight.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, if it was a marathon there were 2 more rounds to go,
Well,
and Romero seemed to be surging. Yeah, I mean, obviously the strategy for Robles' camp at that point was the right strategy because I mean he's well on his way to winning.
No, but
the
what I'm saying is,
championship.
if it was a 5-round round fight, they would have had a different strategy.
He would have
for
kept
round-
his foot on the
Yeah,
gas.
for round 3. Yeah,
I don't know.
you know, one thing about Anthony Romero is the guy's a beast. He's
Yeah.
very solid. And the Anthony Romero I saw on Saturday night did not look like the normal Anthony Romero that I'm used to seeing. And again, I do not want to take anything away from Johnny Robles. Even if Anthony Romero at his best was in there, who knows who would have won that fight. I'm not trying to say anything because I thought Johnny Robles came in, executed a perfect game plan, and looked freaking amazing.
He did not look like he was losing that night, right? The way he
No,
looked that night.
Johnny was so dialed in. The mullet was popping. Everything was just freaking.
Yeah, he didn't have to shave his head to make weight.
Well, he really looked so dialed in and
Dude, he
locked
looked
in,
so strong
Yeah.
too. I don't know if physically, when you compare the two, he just looked bulkier. He looked strong.
Well, now let's talk about him for a second. He's now, I think, 9-3
9-3 on a 5-5 win streak.
on a 5-fight win streak, and coming off a 23-second knockout in Cage Warriors.
Cage Warriors,
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if his phone rings
No,
on
he
short
should get the
notice.
call.
Yeah.
I think
TK?
everyone's been hyping up, and rightfully so, Romero
Yeah.
to the UFC. I think
Well,
he's still just a couple fights away. Johnny Robles, so
But I
he
think,
should be there
let's
too.
be fair. The only reason we've been hyping, you know, Romero up is because he's our champion. He's been homegrown.
for sure.
Johnny's fought in other organizations and it fought for us too. Now coming back, but I think you know Johnny is in that
Well,
conversation.
when
TK.
George made this fight, shout out to George, the GOAT. I told you, I was like, this is like 2 top prospects outside of the UFC that could already be there or should be there fighting each other. How awesome is this?
TK, what about these two actually agreeing to fight each other? Think about that. 2 top prospects with everything at risk.
Everything to lose. And yeah, let's talk about the now bantamweight champion, Johnny the Sleeper Robles. He was, as advertised, from Josh Barnett, from Victor Henry. I don't think Romero had been hit, even in the wars he was in with Brian the Heat Down and everything, and tested by Brandon Michael Spencer. I don't think he's been hit the way he was by Robles. He was as advertised, and Robles coming in at the time with a 4-fight win streak, coming off that, one punch knockout. You can say 23 seconds. It was one shot against James Settle. And now answers, any doubters. And yes, obviously, we're going to be a little bit kind of homers for Romero going into that fight because he's our champion. But yeah, it's a great point. Well, does Robles get, is he put himself in that position to go to the road to the big show? Because here's the guy that was the guy. Now he just beat that guy. That's life. And
it's like Ric Flair says, to be the man, you got to beat the man.
One thing about I don't favor Romero over Robles at all, right? I think the one difference is Romero's come up with us and his journey's been with UNF. But I've always been a fan of Robles.
100%.
You know what I mean? And what I think that we're not hitting on is how amazing that these two athletes took this fight.
Yeah.
They had everything to lose. Both of these guys were knocking on the door of the UFC, to be honest with you. Romero could have maybe set it out, still got that call, or tried to take an easier fight to build. But he chose to fight Johnny Robles, who was the toughest test you're going to get in California.
Well, they're both dogs, and dogs don't really back down from other dogs. When you got two pit bulls in a room, they're either going to get along or they're going to go at each other, and they don't care about what the other record is.
But these are two guys not playing the game, to be honest with you, because if they were playing the game, they would have looked for easier fights.
But they're also two guys that are coming from camps that know big fights get big rewards.
Right. That's why I was going to mention too. So I totally agree, right? For either side, this is not the best fight you want to take as far as making sure you go get that finish and you're going to get the call. But if you have a great performance like Robles did against Romero right here, how much more impressive is that than fighting some guy with a 500 record, maybe getting a finish? Yeah. So there was a lot to gain also, but there was a lot to lose, and a very tough challenge for both guys.
I just don't think they're wired that way, though. I don't think their camps or either one of those guys says, business wise, it behooves me more to I need another win. I need an easy fight. No, to be the best, you got to beat the best. Those guys, they don't back down from anybody.
Yeah. They're junkyard dogs, man. They'll just go right at each other.
Yeah. Shout out to both those guys, man. Yeah. Man. I think Robles should be getting that call shortly. Where does the bully go from here?
Well, that's my question. Did either one of you guys have a chance to catch up with him after to see where his head's at?
Yeah. So I've been communicating with him, and he kind of like what I said. He said, man, I wasn't feeling, I was just so off. I want the rematch. I want to get back in there. And that was the next day.
I'd love to see it.
I'd like to see him get another win before he gets the rematch, but yeah.
I'd personally love to see that rematch. Right? I don't know if it makes the most sense, but what more as a promotion do you want? Two of the top guys outside of the UFC fighting each other. That's great.
I think Robles gets the call.
I think
he
so
just
too.
looks.
I think he deserves it.
Phenomenal.
And I also think Romero. Two more. I think another good performance or two. He should be right back on that radar, ready to go.
Speaking of people that should get the call, what about our 125-pound champion, Gianni Vasquez?
Way to pivot, John. Listen, I'm a big fan of Gianni.
Oh, you're a big fan
of Gianni? Of everybody, though. But yeah, wow, Gianni looked freaking great.
Yeah, he did.
He didn't look great at the start. He was in some trouble.
No, you're right,
Austin
Russell, he
brought it.
He was hitting him with that left hook, bro.
Yeah, he landed some with the feet too. He hit him in the body pretty hard. But did you guys see the tap? Because I saw the tap.
I saw the tap. I don't think the ref had the best view on it, but I'm sitting cage side. I see the tap. I'm like, he's tapping.
I screamed, he's tapping to the ref. I was like, he's tapping.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't think the ref was in the right position, but because I talked to Austin after the fight, and he's like, did you see if I tapped? I'm like, you did. He's like, I thought the last thing I remembered was tapping.
Yeah.
But he was tapping for a while.
Yeah.
But the most brutal thing, Ryan and I were sitting next to Austin's parents.
Oh, yeah. That's the toughest part of the job.
Nice
honestly.
people. Yeah, they're such nice people.
But that first round definitely, wasn't going Gianni's way. It was a close round by probably edging it towards Austin. But in Gianni's post-fight interview, he said, my coach told me to bring the Mexican out. Did you guys see that change in the second round?
Said, stop being a bitch or something like that. Yeah. Again, like I said about Romero, it just seemed like in the first round, Gianni was looking to feel out his opponent, and his opponent wasn't having any of the feel out process. So Austin was like, I want to get this guy out of here quick. And he brought the fight right to Gianni. And I think it shows that Gianni's not just a a foot to the gas pedal, barn blazer, knockout guy. He's an intelligent scrapper.
He is.
And he avoided a lot of damage from Austin in that first round. We scored it for Austin, but I think Gianni was kind of just reading and trying to get an idea of how to find an opening with him, because that Kempo style that Austin has is very awkward. He changes stances a lot, turns sideways a lot, and very active with his feet. So I think that kind of gave Johnny a little bit to think about in that first round. And the second round, he was like, all right, no more thinking.
I think too, in watching it back, that perhaps watching it live, that first round seemed more one-sided than it really was. Austin Russell looked great. And I think the other thing we haven't talked about yet is his takedowns. He had just physical takedowns and was getting Gianni to the mat. But the champ, Gianni, did blast him with a really nice combination right off the bat too. So I mean, he was in that first round.
Oh, for sure.
But again, it was like, if he brought the Mexican out, I think Albert Morales brought the Brazilian, whatever.
Belizean Warriors.
Brazilian, he'll make $1 billion. The Belizean out, because it was kind of the tale of two rounds. I mean, Gianni, and again, Schmo talked about when we talked about the road to the big dance. Early on, he said, I think the one missing piece of the puzzle with Gianni is the finish rate, And then here he comes out and gets that big submission win, and with a nasty looking choke. I mean, Russell's head was at a 90-degree angle.
I think it was an anaconda choke that he locked up, and he rotated it. And once he was able to readjust, there it is right there. Look at that. Look at his head. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
His head's in New Jersey and his body's in California.
He's just out. Look at that.
I just saw the tap right there. Yeah.
The referee, it was on the opposite side.
Colin Oyama was not happy that it took so long for the ref to break him up.
Yeah.
Colin was like, hey, he was tapping.
Yeah, he didn't have to go to sleep.
Yeah.
He didn't have to go to sleep. But the ref, was he in the right position or not? Because the way that submission was applied, Austin was kind of held up in a real awkward position. So
the arm was also trapped under the leg. So
when he tapped,
he tapped him on his ass.
Yeah.
And so the ref couldn't see it where it
so
was.
You would hope the refs got to do their best and try to see all that stuff. It's going to happen. Luckily, it was just a choke. I mean, you don't want him to go unconsciously taps, but it's a choke, no further damage. But he definitely did tap before the ref stopped
credit to Johnny. They're taught not to let go when they tap. So you let go when the referee pulls you apart, because we've seen it before where a guy thinks he tapped and no, he didn't.
Yeah.
So
were you guys impressed with Austin Russell?
Very much. In fact, we ran into him afterwards. And
was that at the bar?
Yes,
maybe. I wasn't going to say it, but it was.
I saw you guys.
And John, had some interesting to say to Austin. He goes, look, it's not often you say in a losing effort that your stock rose, but you thought that the stock of Austin Russell rose with that.
Yeah. I mean, anytime you have a challenger taking the fight to the champion, you know what I mean? That's what impressed me. Is it was his first time in UNF. I think he was only 4-1.
Yep.
So he doesn't have the experience that Gianni Vasquez has, but he came in, the lights didn't bother him. We have a pretty intimidating setup, and none of that seemed to bother him, because, these guys are used to fighting in cages and backyards and stuff like that for promotions that really don't care. And UNF kind of sets a very grand stage. And I've seen it before, and Todd's seen it before. When fighters come out, they're a little in the stars, you know what I mean? Like seeing.
Did this event just seem grander than normal to you guys? Because the energy, this event just seemed bigger than normal to me.
Well, it was stacked. I mean, I talked about in the opening, and I talked about the number 23 and greatness and all that. And I said, anytime you have Albert Morales and Anthony Romero and Gianni Vasquez, any one of them defending their title on one of our shows is big. But when you have all three of them, it just felt,
doesn't get much bigger.
Shout out to George.
Hit different,
guys,
right? This one.
Yeah. Listen, you got to really give it to George. You know what I mean? Making the best matches. If you look at our regional competition, some of the athletes that they have fighting for titles and their cards, I don't think they even compare to ours.
No. I think, anybody can throw together a fight, but George doesn't throw together a fight. Neither does Ryan. They craft fights.
Yeah.
And that's a much different thing than saying, oh, fighter A and fighter B are going to square off. No. Hold on a second. We have to craft a fight. We have to do research and find out what style is going to match up against another style, what fighter's more deserving than the other. If there is a title on the line, who deserves a shot at that title, who deserves to, to be there. And I think that's the difference between our promotion and other promotions. We don't call people. I mean, I was at a Gladiator Challenge show back in the day, and Savak Magakian pulled me in the back and was like, you got to see this. They brought a guy in from the audience in basketball shorts. He was smoking a cigarette, drinking a beer, and they were wrapping his hands. Like, come on, like he had silver dollar nipples, for God's sakes. So, I mean, I've seen a lot.
You get a fight. You get a fight.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of shitty matchmaking, and I've called a lot of fights that were shitty matchmaking for other promotions, and we don't have that problem here.
Listen, there was not one bad fight on the card. 16 total bouts. Which one you want to talk about next? Arthur and David Guzman?
Yeah, let's talk about Arthur and David Guzman. Two guys earlier in their careers. I mean, Arthur obviously has that judo pedigree, world champion. David Guzman, though, a brown belt in BJJ, I knew it was going to be a good, evenly matched fight.
Yeah.
I do think with Arthur, too, though, I mean, he's a little bit like Pargov in the sense of he's a brand. He knows how to market himself.
Yeah.
It was only his second fight, and he has such a huge fan base.
I was just going to say that.
I'm sure there's a lot of pressure on his shoulders, right? And, that's going to take a little bit of time to really learn how to maneuver and do the correct things and always keep the technique side of things in the cage when he fights.
That's an excellent point.
No,
Yeah.
and I think I was going there. That's what I was thinking about. I think it's great if all you have to worry about is being in the cage and fighting your opponent. I feel like he's got such a major fan base, and he really has something to prove. That's how he feels. He's fighting for the Armenian people. He's very into his gym and all his students. I feel he just is so focused on putting on a big performance for everyone else.
Yeah.
That caused him to kind of rush things a little bit.
I think that his previous efforts kind of put that pressure on him, because I don't think the onus would have been on him to look for the finish had he, used his grappling, his judo, his throws, and was able to grind out a 3-round unanimous decision in his debut.
Yeah.
He got a 1:57 finish in his debut. So now it's like he thinks that's what
how do I top this?
How do I top this?
True.
And that's what people expect. And again, you said you were impressed. Well, I mean, let's talk about David Guzman a little bit.
Sure.
Yeah.
Obviously, that Sakanian is going to take you down and get you down. But he couldn't do anything once he got him down because Guzman had him all pretzeled up,
I don't even
all
know
tied
what
up.
positions those were or anything.
Even Chris Bruno was joining us for that fight. He's like, well, this isn't, exactly a common technique here. But I mean, it was effective defensively. The problem was he could never get anything going offensively to win that fight. But I think he absolutely frustrated Artur.
Yeah.
The fact that Artur could get him down and immediately he's like, I can't do
he
shit.
couldn't really do much offensively once he got there.
I honestly feel that was good for Arthur, though, to go all 3 rounds, to experience a really tough guy like Guzman for your second fight. I think he's going to take a lot away from this fight.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely a lot to learn from that fight.
I think Guzman's another one of the fighters that, in loss, his stock went up.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Well, I think he's now 0-2 or something.
But his jiu-jitsu, he's just got to find a way to utilize his jiu-jitsu to create scrambles.
Yeah.
He was looking for an arm at one point. I thought he was going to try to use the Kimura to get a sweep, but it didn't work out. He's the type of guy that if he can put everything together, he's going to be a very dangerous fighter.
Yeah, I think so too.
One thing to talk about that we haven't touched on yet is I think one of the more exciting moments of the night was like the photo finish at the end of round 1.
Oh,
Artur caught him with a head kick and blitzed in and dropped him. And right at the end of the round, we weren't
Well, hit him with
sure.
the head kick, then that punch. Then I think Chris Bruno on the
Thought it was over.
I thought it was over.
Yeah.
Like, no, never got rid of that. That was the end of the round.
The ref went like this, and I thought that was it. But he was saying the round,
It was this, not this.
Yeah.
I think, we look at Pargov. We talked about Pargov and his journey. Right now, he's going to be going pro. I think Arthur is the new Pargov of the Rising Stars, if you ask me.
It's very possible.
He's only got 2 fights now, but I really think he's going to mature and he's going to be a dominant champion.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I had so much, I was a little disappointed in his performance because I had so much expectation for him. I talked about it in the pre-fight. I said he's one of maybe 5 or 6 guys that I've seen as an amateur that I knew right away this guy's going to be like JP Lebosniani's another guy that was like that. Pargev's another guy that was like that. Jay Powell, Shane Collins, Hamza Trad. I look at him as being in that ilk, like he's got the pedigree to be really, really, really
I think
good.
I totally get what you're saying, but kid's also just 18 years old.
Yeah,
right?
I think if you look
but you forget that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know what you're saying.
Pargev's first fight with Israel Salazar, even though we believe, Pargev won that fight still, don't think the judges really got that one right.
Of course.
But remember his striking?
Yeah.
He was winging punches.
Yeah, you're right.
And he was always just getting the big takedowns, but he was winging those punches.
Yep.
And look at how he's evolved and developed. I think Arthur's on that same path.
Yeah.
He's in the right camp too. I mean, Aram Gregorian's a great coach. It's a great camp. Olymp Fight Camp's a great young camp. He's got the right tools behind him to make him great. I just want to see, like I said, you want to see a fighter grow from performance to performance to performance. And I didn't see a lot of growth in his striking. I'd like to see, a little bit more growth in his striking next time. But hey, that's just me. Don't hate me.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying. I do think I agree with you though. It was a decent test for Arthur. Also going 3 rounds against a brown belt and BJJ. Just
let's
totally
not
different
forget
fight.
Guzman's a brown belt.
No, it was.
And he's a
step
dog
up in
too.
competition.
Like I said,
I
his
want to
stock
see
went
Guzman
up.
back
yeah.
in there.
Yeah, I'd like to see him fight again because against someone that maybe a little bit more equal to him on the stand up. But yeah, his defensive jiu-jitsu was on point.
Well, I'm sure you would have saw a lot more jiu-jitsu from a Guzman not fighting another great jiu-jitsu guy in Arthur, right? With great control, top control. But no, I think it was a good fight. I can't wait to get both those guys back in the cage. And I do agree that Arthur has that potential to be that next type of Pargev for sure.
No doubt.
I want to bring up a point. Let's talk about.
You bring up a point, Todd.
Well, I will.
Okay.
Bring it up, Todd.
Rest assured.
He did the finger like your mom does, right?
Which is yelling at you.
I'm going to bring up a point.
Kris? Okay.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Todd.
So let's talk about making that jump, okay? Because the grass is not always greener. Sometimes
That's right.
you make that jump. When you're a rising star, you always talk about, it's win or learn, and the record will go away. But when you go pro, you're swimming past the jetty, and now you're out in the open ocean, and there's sharks, right? So Pargev looks to be primed and ready. But let's talk about somebody with a similar path.
I see where this is going.
I see where it's going
the
to.
Syrian
I don't
prince,
know that I like
the
it.
Syrian prince, Hamza Trad, very impressive in his debut as a pro, victory. But now takes on a guy that just wouldn't go away. And Hamza looked great.
I was about to say his second fight. This fight also very impressive.
Yes.
Right? I mean, I rewatched the fight too. And David, it wasn't like he was outclassing David to say, but it was a competitive fight. But Hamza looked a step quicker, a step ahead.
Yep.
Until, I'll let you finish up until, whatever.
We were
happened.
even talking about it that Rivera would throw or land one strike to Hamza's 3 or 4. Yeah. Hamza was getting off quicker, just seemed the fresher, but Rivera he couldn't get him out of there, right? Mm-hmm. And then I'm pretty sure Hamza was trying to lower levels and go for a takedown when he caught that knee.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was just almost bad luck more than anything.
Yeah.
But he was all out of sorts after that knee. And credit to Rivera for being tough enough and staying in that fight just long enough and to have just enough left to be able to finish that thing by TKO.
Well, we talked a little bit about, Karan Darbedian, KD MMA, where he trains. I mean, but Rivera trains at Classic Fight Team down south in Irvine. And I don't know if you ever seen Tyler Wombles coach, but Tyler Wombles is a hell of a striking coach.
Yeah.
Like very underrated, extremely, extremely good coach. And he had a look in his eye like he knew something that we didn't know. So with Rivera, it's exactly like Todd said. Trot was winning the fight until he wasn't.
Sure. And that's one shot changes everything in this game.
And a credit to Rivera because, he's a horse that stayed in the race, and he could have easily faded and fell victim to another attack from Hamza Trad, but he stood in his face. And when he dropped him the last time, and they kind of were protesting the finish, but Trad fell face first.
Yeah,
and when he falls supine like that,
I'm okay with the finish, and so much credit to David.
Yeah,
honestly, I mean, to stay in the fight, he's a dog, right? Like we talked about earlier. Sometimes you're getting a little beat up or it's not going your way, and fighters like just this look in their face of discouragement. Oh, fuck this. You just like, while he was in there, he still believed, like he knew, he believed he was going to win the fight still, right? No
He
matter if
said
it wasn't
so
going
at the
his way.
weigh-ins. He was like, I'm going to F this guy up.
Well, listen, he's a seasoned guy. He's
It kind
finished.
of reminded me a little bit of, I mean, not to the level, but like a Granado versus Attila a little
Yeah,
bit, right? Like it
very
did.
much
Yeah,
so.
it seems that way. But the one thing that I didn't like that Hamza took this fight at 155.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up too.
That-
Hamza
that-
is a 45.
Yeah, I really think Hamza belongs at 45, right? And when he took this fight at 55, I wasn't a big fan of it, to be honest with you. Rivera is big, he's strong, super technical, just like Hamza.
Yeah.
And I think at that level, that
I mean,
extra
they're
weight-
not close to getting to the UFC, right? But it's a little similar to the Robles versus Romero thing in the sense, two very good guys, two prospects, two guys that are going to be on the come up that could be built a little more, don't have to take these really tough fights. But like TK said, these guys just aren't wired like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Look, I mean, both he and Rivera and Hamza are both known as being some of the top guys, some of the top strikers, right?
And like I
think.
said, no risk, no reward. You know what I mean? Big risk, big reward.
Yeah, but now we can, what happened Saturday. Did they make a mistake at taking it 55? I mean, what do you guys really think?
Well, I don't, and
Or should Hamza be fighting at 55? Should he be fighting at 45?
that's something they're going to have to really analyze. But I can see your point. Now, let's say Hamza is connecting, with those combinations that he was early in the fight.
Yep.
Maybe he finishes a 45er with that. You don't know. I mean, somebody that's just not quite as big and durable as Rivera that was able to eat it.
You can't take anything from Rivera.
No,
Rivera
we're not
is
doing that
a
whatsoever. Yeah. for
freaking
sure.
beast and has a promising and very bright future, right? But I mean, this whole like sit down and this, debrief and recap of the show is to kind of get to the meat and potatoes of
Yeah,
things.
talk about those things for sure. I was gonna say that before you brought it up. I don't like. Well, I'm not gonna say I don't like Hamza at 155, but he's a 45er. He should be at 45. I mean, even when he was a rising star, he fought Oli at 45, fought Shane Collins at 45, beat him in a very close fight. Fought Johnny O'Neal at 145. The guy, pretty much pro level fights at the Rising Stars.
Yep.
I don't think he should be fighting at 155 as a pro. I mean, maybe he feels better. His team does think he's better at 155. I just think he should be fighting at 45.
Look, I think talent-wise, Hamza could fight anybody, right? A talent level, but I think the size could maybe made a difference.
Yeah, I mean, there's a big difference between as you go up in weight, the power differential is just tremendous. And the difference between 70 and 85 is tremendous. The difference between
That's 15
45.
pounds.
Yeah, the difference between
Sorry,
45 and
Just
55.
tremendous.
Just tremendous.
No, I'm sorry about the power
It
that
is
translates.
tremendous.
When you
It's
see
tremendous with
when
a
you-
capital T.
when
John.
you see welterweights go up to 85, very
Yeah.
often they taste the power and they go right back to welterweight. So I wouldn't be surprised if he goes back to 45 because, like you said, 55 doesn't seem like. If he can make 45, what's the point?
Yeah,
you know what I
I
mean?
totally agree with
Well, I
that.
think too, and I feel again not taking anything from Rivera, but if we're talking about Hamza, I think we're trying to make him a fight. Things kept falling out also
Right.
for him. So I think hey, I want to stay busy and taking things.
That's very true. But also Rivera, I mean, to lead up for this fight, he was
Oh,
already
dude.
scheduled to fight two different guys. Both
Poor Rivera.
both got injured and couldn't fight. I think similar thing to Hamza, right? So they both just were savages and said, we'll fight
Yeah.
each other and
Yeah.
agreed to fight. But to the point, I do think Hamza's a 45er. He should be fighting a 45.
Rivera's one of those guys that always sticks in my head because he fought for CXF years ago. And I remember he had a couple of one huge head kick knockout. I've always been a fan of that kid. He's got a bright future.
Well, he does. Well, I'm glad you said that. Okay, because this was a tough loss.
Yep.
In a fight where it looks like he might have been well on his way to winning. But I love that too because it is the Yogi Berra. It ain't over till it's over,
Yep.
and you got to credit the toughness of Rivera. But in a way, this might take a little pressure. Believe it or not, I think off of Hamza Trad because here's a guy that lost his debut fight.
He was on a 17-fight win streak, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, ridiculous. So now it's like, okay, I got that out of the way, but now let's get laser focused, right? I mean, look at a guy like Anthony Romero. He lost a fight and then his debut and then has been on the run up until, he ran into the sleeper. Look at the sleeper who has some losses in his career, but now has 5 straight. So, as the Macho Man Randy Savage would say, the cream of the crop always rises to the top, and that'll be the case with Hamza Trad. He'll be
Hamza
back better
Trad
than
is
ever.
Special. Hamza Trad is special. Like Ryan said, 17-fight win streak. And I think you might be right. This might be really good for him. Back to the drawing board, refocus on some things. Hamza Trad special. Rivera is super special too. I'm just stoked that we got to see that
And
fight.
I mean, and also, yeah, that we haven't really brought that up yet. That fight was just nuts watching too,
Bro.
right? Just back and forth.
Yeah.
Again, I felt like Hamza was edging now, but I mean, David was still throwing with bad intentions the whole time. It was just a freaking dogfight.
It's crazy that's a main event. That's a main event fight.
Yeah.
Places like there were so many good fights on Saturday that
I mean, listen, our fight card was so nuts. And
Well, it's
nothing against
crazy
these
when
guys.
Isaac
Brendan
Enriquez-
Farnsworth and Isaac Enriquez were the second fight of the night.
How does that happen?
That's nuts.
That's other promotions'
Yeah.
main events.
Yeah.
Like, honestly. And they could, and they fought for belts, and they, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But just that fight card, how stacked it was just turned out like that.
Yeah.
amazing.
I mean, it was a night of kind of surprises. I mean, and then let's talk about Carlos Elizares versus David Rojas.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another one.
That
of
second round was tough to watch for me.
leaving
Me
the
too.
safety of the Rising Stars division, right, where Rojas had a lot of success.
Yeah.
And said in the weigh-in, I'm going to bring an intensity that you're not expecting, and I'm going to burn the roof down. And he had all the confidence in the world, and rightly so, with what he's done.
Yeah.
But I think, and he had a great first round. He out grappled Carlos. He was throwing up a lot of submissions, but therein lies the problem, John. He seemed like his arms weighed 500 pounds each in the second.
I'm sorry, I need to
second
interrupt you, but Rojas is not a grappler.
Yeah.
Okay, so when I'm talking with Ryan, I'm like, why is he wrestling? Why is he grappling? I mean, that guy's got striking that's off the chain.
Yeah, I was more impressed with Elizares' defense from the ground because, every time he would lock up, Rojas would lock up a submission on him, he would bite down on his chin or he would push his head
Carlos
back
is a
through his
dog.
face. He had very good defensive technique. And I don't think, except for one attempt, I don't think he was ever, starched for blood or starched for breath. And I said during the broadcast, I was like, I'm a little concerned that Rojas is putting, paying too many dividends for that choke because that's going to come back and hurt him later.
I agree with what you're saying. And I think, maybe it's a thing of also David was off that night. I don't know. Like we're talking about kind of Romero being off. I've never seen David just have a full grappling game plan for a fight. I mean, he's been doing Muay Thai since I don't even know how long, but I guess since his whole life pretty much. And it makes you wonder a little bit like, why did he revert to strictly grappling the whole round? I know he had success with it, but just not what I was expecting.
Well, I talked to his coach, Chad George, after the fight, and he said grappling was not the game plan.
Yeah.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
And then the problem was, he gassed out those arms, right?
Yep.
So then, okay, he couldn't get the submission. He couldn't get the finish on the ground. So now when you would think, okay, let me switch gears and go with what brought me to the dance. When he tried to throw in that second round, it looked like he was throwing
Rubber
sandbags.
arms.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, there was
he was moving in
nothing.
slow-mo that second round. And I also think, the ref needed to stop that fight a little sooner, if you guys ask me.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
that
he
was-
got hit with like an 80 punch combo almost. I'm not saying Elizares was winding up and throwing the most power hooks, but he threw like an 80 punch combo and David wasn't throwing back, just some spinning elbows that, and you just don't want to see fighters get any more hurt than they already are. I think, David was tired, whatever happened. And I think it was time to kind of call it 20 punches before.
Yeah, he got hit with a 26 piece and a biscuit and the ref didn't
And a
step in.
biscuit?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
he was bloodied. His eye was starting to shut. He was beat up. I mean, hats off to Rojas. He's a tough kid.
So
but,
Ross is a fucking dog.
Like Todd said, he was swinging punches from his hips. When Elizares would land, Carlos, Rivera normally would be up here, or Rojas would normally be up here, but his arms would start to drop because the lactic acid was building up, obviously. So Rojas is an absolute beast, but sometimes, and like you said, it wasn't the game plan. Sometimes these guys step in the cage and they get cracked
how
in
much-
the
how
face,
much
and
do
the
you
game
think-
plan
do you
goes
think-
out the window.
We sat down with him on Fight Family Podcasts. There was so much kind of hype, I think, from more
Yeah.
guys about his pro debut, him making that jump, him doing the pro debut. He's going to burn the house down, all the things he said. Do you think that played on his mind a little bit? Do you think that maybe deterred him from?
I mean, I think after the
Anything?
first round didn't go his way, he was, and he started to feel the arms start to get heavy. I think that definitely started my mouth dug me into a position, my mouth wrote checks that my body can't cash right now, and I think perhaps that was running through his head, because he looked extreme. Not only did he look devastatedly tired from the fight, but he looked really, really disappointed. You could see it on
Ross
his
is a
face.
competitor.
Yeah.
He's very passionate about this. And
Yeah.
this is, and I believe Ross is going to bounce back better than ever from this. He's going to come back. Just need to take it as a learning experience.
Yeah, maybe this is the best thing that could have happened to him.
Yeah,
too.
that's-
Hopefully
I don't think he'd agree
Well,
after
well,
getting his
no,
face turned to
no,
hamburger.
Listen, I agree with you in that sense, but maybe mentally, because again, I think with the hype being behind him, there's a lot of pressure. He's a fan favorite. Maybe getting this loss, then he can refocus himself.
Well,
But he's
100%. But just really quick, John, just to get back to your point, I think Frank Trigg, who, if I'm not mistaken, was the official for that fight, I think, knows what Rojas is capable of, wanted to give him every opportunity. But for my liking, when it was obvious
Yes.
that Rojas didn't have any bullets left in the clip and couldn't throw anything meaningful at that point and was getting just pieced apart, let's call this a night. You know what I mean? I do think it went until Rojas finally, and he showed what his time. He finally succumbed and dropped
but
to
how
his
many
butt, and
times
then
have
he
guys
called it.
actually come back and look like that too? So it's such a
No. From
I feel
honestly,
for the judge.
I get it.
For the refs.
But that scenario
Also,
right
such a
there,
tough-
I haven't seen that many times, to be honest.
Yeah.
That
Well,
exact scenario, like,
Look-
it was almost 40 punches probably with David just throwing back because he's a dog, but the punch was moving like his arms were gassed. It was like slow-mo. Like, it was just, David obviously is a fucking warrior, and he didn't, I'm not calling it give up, but it was just like there was nothing more
his
he could
body
do.
gave up.
Yeah, exactly.
David didn't give
There
up.
was
His
nothing
body
more.
just gave out.
There was nothing more he
was
could do,
just
and I think
done.
that was the ref's job. I know it's a hard job, but that was the ref's job to call that before that
Now
happened. to be honest.
the Rojas fight came after the Gibson Morales fight, correct? So
Exactly.
my question, my question is this.
Man.
My question is this: do you think maybe Frank Trigg after that fight was told that stoppage was a little quick, and that kind of played into him allowing Rojas
we can
to
Monday
go?
morning
Yeah.
quarterback this shit
Yeah.
for days, and we're never gonna really know.
Frank Triggs is an amazing ref.
He's
also.
amazing.
Oh,
And
yeah,
listen,
great
they're
guy,
also
too.
they're
Yeah.
very close to the action. They may see something we're not. That's just my opinion on viewing it, but I'm not here to judge or say anything. But that's just what I saw when I watched it.
I'm gonna say it again. We could sit here and talk all the shit we want. None of us could do that job.
No.
Well, maybe
No,
John could because he's
and we're not
Superman.
talking talking shit, and maybe Rojas gave some nonverbal to say, hey, I'm
Sure.
okay. We don't know,
Yeah.
but we want to look out for
Yep.
the fighter's safety. And that
100%.
was one case where it seemed to me like Rojas might have
Yeah.
taken more damage than was
Ross
necessary.
is a
agree.
warrior again. Like
Yeah.
he's gonna give it his all till he can't anymore, and that's kind of what happened in that fight. It's, the ref's judgment called him, when to call in, not to. But yeah, definitely a tough pro debut for Rojas, but no doubt in my mind he's gonna come back better than ever. And shout out to Carlos. How do you say Elizares? Is that
Elizares.
Elizares.
There's an extra ara.
Yeah,
in there.
and we
Elizares.
apologize to Elizares. He got left off the fight banner and what else? The program or
No, just
art
just-
department.
just
forgot
as-
to put
just
a
as-
picture on
He
there.
took it out on Rojas. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, sorry, dude.
Yeah,
Oh shit. Well, DeGuerro versus Khalil.
I was very excited about DeGuerro versus Khalil. Been talking to DeGuerro for a while for him to make his UNF UNF debut.
Yeah.
Finally did. He's one of the top guys in the Rising Star scene, has been for a while. Finally got him on the UNF card, and had a decent fight with Khalil. I mean, Khalil was busting him up a little bit on the feet, a little bloodied, but DeGuerro ultimately, just the grappling and just showed his experience and came out with the dub. But I thought he looked great in his UNF debut.
I agree. I think he showed us something that I wasn't expecting to see. A lot of times the record says one thing and then the fighter says another when you watch him fight. But DeGuerro certainly, he's one of the guys that I put a check mark next to his name because he withstood some adversity. He got clipped a couple times, but it didn't seem to impede his game plan at all.
Guess who his main training partners are?
Who?
Anthony Romero and Albert
Oh
Morales.
yeah, that's right. He's a Black House guy.
Yeah,
That's
so
right.
he's been
Yeah.
and if you guys seen them train before and spar before, their
Oh, yeah.
sparring sessions are worse than fights.
Yeah, Black House is known for being a very tough
It's a rough place.
team. Yeah, the cream rises to the top, especially in a place like that, like Todd said, because you have to win a lot of gym wars even to get a fight when you're training with Black
Oh,
House.
yeah.
So
No, for sure. I mean, his post-fight interview, he's calling for a title shot, or he wants to go pro after one fight. He's calling for a title shot. When you guys watched him fight, what do you guys think should be next for DeGuerro?
I think another fight in the Rising Stars division. I think he needs to get some rounds under his belt. See how he deals with adversity about being in like perhaps a bad position. But maybe one or two more fights, I think, and maybe a title shot in between because he's definitely got the pedigree.
So he's faced adversity. He's fought all the
Yeah.
top guys.
His two losses are the top dudes.
Yeah, the current 145 state title holder. But I thought he looked good. I mean, I think potentially fight for a title next.
Yeah.
We'll have to see what's going on.
Yeah, he wants to fight at 35 too.
Well, and Khalil's no slouch either, and
No.
and it wasn't all smooth sailing for Digero in that fight. At one point, Khalil caught him with a leg kick, took the rug out
That
from under him,
1-2,
and then
yeah.
a nice combination. So Digero ate some shots in that.
Yep.
But like you said, grappling one out, got him down, was able to finish him with the ground and pound, and that's an impressive win.
And there's something to be also be said about that fight is Digero wanted to fight at 135.
Yeah.
This fight, his opponent pulled out. His initial opponent, Khalil, stepped up on like a week and a half's notice. Had to cut a bunch of weight because Khalil is bigger than Digero. So they both agreed to fight at 140 initially, got moved to 145. Long story short, Digero was a savage, fighting up pretty much 10 pounds than what he wanted to. Khalil did his part, and that's how we made the
Short
fight happen.
notice,
But
yeah.
I think the power and the size and the length played a little tricky for Digero, but did what he had to do to win. So I thought it was a great debut for him, and also shout out to Khalil for stepping up on a week and a half
for
notice.
sure. I think Digero is something special. I'd like to see him fight for a title, maybe one more fight, then fight for that title.
Well, his teammate holds the title right now, so I don't know how
Yeah,
it work.
how do you
do we
feel?
work
Do you have
that?
teammates fight each other or what?
I'm all for it, but people don't like.
They
doing
won't
that.
be.
No, definitely not.
No, I'm kidding. No, definitely not. But yeah, there was that.
What about Albizi? Albizi like Sunday morning, as we
Yeah,
were saying.
that's right. Albert Tadavosian.
I was like, who's Albizi?
Oh my
Sorry,
God.
I'm getting
Yeah,
confused
yeah.
over here.
You got to talk about that.
Yeah,
He was a submission machine in that fight, was putting up everything,
Yeah.
and eventually got him, I believe, with a guillotine
Yeah.
to make history. So that was a great performance.
It was really nice the way he got to the guillotine too, because he had the back position. He was looking for the rear naked, and then you could actually see, if you watch the replay, he kicks his left leg out, and then his right leg follows. And as soon as he gets his hips,
Look at John
Parallel.
getting his body into
Yeah.
it like, ooh,
as soon as he's
Don't
able
pull
to,
something, John.
come on.
as soon as
John.
he's able to, I don't want to hurt myself, but as soon as he's able to get his hips parallel, he jumps guillotine. I don't know if he saw something or felt something in the grappling exchanges, but it was a very educated move to get
Yeah.
from the back to the guillotine like that. And I think that a testament to his skill.
Let's-
He's got a lot of fights under his belt.
Yeah, but
so-
LJ Porte's no joke, right? He's
No.
a seasoned guy. Like Albert really, really impressed me. And, that guy I think is, again, something special. I think he's a champion in another promotion. Just the crowd and the energy he brought to the event. I felt like Gulo Manassian was there again.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. The crowd and everything. Well, he's an inter welterweight title now, so he could be fighting.
Ooh,
Say his
you're
name.
the only one that
Yeah,
can
I
pronounce
can't
his
say
name.
Get Davidosh.
Patsumro Dagvador.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah.
That's a sick fight. Good job, John.
Yeah.
Thank
I mean,
you.
how do you
Thank
think
you.
he would match up?
I mean,
That's a tough
I
one.
think he would probably win that fight.
Really?
Dagvador is, you got to hit this kid with a baseball bat to get him out of there. And I think
Tommy Aaron just about did.
Yeah,
That was the fight,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, that was a slugfest.
I
Yeah.
would like to see how he would fare against someone who's got really good takedowns and grappling skill like Tadavosian does. So Albizi, I think, all day in that fight.
I want to see that fight, Ryan.
Yeah.
Can we get George on the line and try to make that fight for May 31st?
Oh, that would be
Love to see it.
a fun fight to see. Yeah.
Okay, so we need to wrap this up, Todd.
One thing, I
Oh.
want to give my MVP of the night,
Okay.
and that is the Bulgarian Boogeyman. A, for the nickname, but secondly, that Svetomir, right, Todorov. It's the 16th fight. We're all tired. We have had certain nights where, these quote unquote walkout bouts, right? We've already had 6 title fights, and then you get a 3-round slug, at the end, and you just want to kill yourself. And so Todorov goes out there, one just slicing forearm and takes care of business, drops his opponent.
Watch his elbow on
Yeah.
the exit.
It was nasty.
Kid is good. Well, I'm calling him a kid, but no, he's really good.
Yeah, watch the elbow. If we can see
Wow.
the knockout punch, that elbow was
Yeah, 'cause
so
I-
short and so crisp. Boom!
Oh.
Right there. You see that? He just turned his right arm, pulled his wrist in, and watch this. Watch how
And
short that is. You don't
that's-
even see it.
Wow.
That's
that's
not,
good.
I'm knocked out. I am hurting. I'm in
Yeah.
a ton of pain.
Please don't hit
you
me
know.
anymore.
We
That's
were
what-
thinking he might have broken his orbital there. I mean, it was a nasty shot that hurt. But
Yeah.
but again, Svetomir got us out of there, right? Got us to the bar before last call. So kudos to the Bulgarian Boogeyman, baby.
All right, Bulgarian Boogeyman.
And shout out to Joseph Rodriguez too. I mean, he's a beast, but
Yep.
Svetomir just looked like he wasn't gonna lose that night.
Well, one thing I love about Joseph, hey, I'll be back. Comes with the territory. He wasn't down at all, which I like.
Yeah, I hit him up on social media. I was like, "You're too good to let this bother you."
So
and
he
responded, "I'll be back right away."
I always struggle with that. Like, do I reach out to the guys after they lose? Right? Like, I always kind of struggle with that. I care about these guys. I want to support them, but also I just don't want them to feel like,
I think it means something, because you don't want to eat a loss and then it's radio silence and you're like, well, they're not.
Nobody cares.
I'm not on the radar, right?
Yeah.
So I think that
I try to reach out to all fighters.
All right, I got to start sending some DMs. I've been talking to some, not all, but all you guys, I love all you fighters. If you lost and I haven't reached out, DM, I'll hit you up.
No, yeah, definitely.
Okay, Ryan, let's wrap this up. What was your favorite fight of the night?
Favorite fight of the night?
Yeah, our special favorite moment.
Oh, well,
and don't pick mine, bro.
I got two.
You know where I'm going.
I got two, and Jason Jones finally getting that dub on his record. I mean, I feel for Sedvok. It's just the game that they play. But Jason Jones finally getting that. I felt like he deserved to win, and in that spectacular fashion. Just very happy for him. My favorite fight of the night, though, has to be Romeo versus Robles. Just that the lead up, where they were in their careers, and they both performed, right? And Robles came out on top, but the fight was still amazing from start to finish. So those are my two.
TK all day.
I would have to agree with both of those.
Thanks, TK.
But I also am going to give a little bonus to Gianni Vasquez, because he had to prove himself a little bit, and he was in there with a tough opponent, somebody that's a little unorthodox, coming in there with Kempo. And so defending his title, when other champions that are highly touted or on the road to the big show, had it tough going and ended up losing the title, Vasquez and Still. And also just because we have avocados from Mexico and we have an abogado from Mexico. He's a lawyer from Mexico. So print the t-shirts.
Woo. King.
My MVP of the night is Jason Jones for sure. But my favorite fight was Morales, Chase Gibson, simply because I've been waiting to see that fight for like 12 years now. Was it the best fight of the night? Probably not, but it was the one that I was looking forward to most, and it certainly didn't disappoint.
Well, I mean, there was that turning point, though, right? When Chase just has that great first round that Albert just comes out like a dog in the second and finishes it.
That's why I'm saying it didn't disappoint. It was a tale of two rounds. Both had their moments, and Albert got crowned the winner.
Yeah. So I'm softy. I have to go with Jason Jones.
All right, but you need to choose one more now because we all chose Jason Jones.
Listen, no, I'm going to stick with Jason because Jason told me that I have to say that he's my favorite fighter. So that's what I'm sticking to. Jason Jones is my favorite fighter. No, but I feel like not only was it a great fight, I just feel like this was bigger than a fight for Jason.
Yeah.
Right? I think he just gained.
You got it on the screen right
now.
Yeah,
I think he just gained so much confidence. And again, I think he's better than what his record portrays him as.
Yeah, you see how he's standing over his feet. He's not overextending.
And
beautiful
the word on the
punch.
street is you're the one that told him to do that, so you get credit for the knockout.
Yeah, John King, before we're talking about doing the recap, and John's like, well, I talked to Jason. I told him to do this. I told him that. So John's actually, Jason,
credit. None. No,
John
I'm not
King's trying to take
credit.
credit for your win.
Not even a little bit.
No,
Anyway, so it was a great night of fights. I think our best event yet. I can't wait for UNF 24.
What do you have lined up for UNF 24, Ryan? May 31st.
Well,
Well, there may be a possibility we do something before that, but for sure May 31st,
the May show,
right?
You're going to have Edgar Amirkhani back on the card for sure.
Okay.
You're going to have Byron Valle versus Arshak Dodorian for the 135 title.
That's a good fight.
I like that.
You are most likely, I gotta speak of Pargev, but Pargev, I think they're going pro for sure at this point. Probably going to have Rayshawn Rowland fight someone for the vacant flyweight title for the Rising Stars.
He looked great.
Okay,
Fedia Chobani is most.
I know you're not gonna sorry, I got to interrupt you. I know you're not. I don't know if you could do that. Rayshawn versus Zane 2 for the title, or because Zane's coming off.
Zane's coming off 2.
Shouldn't.
I mean, it's tough because yes, Zane's
Zane
coming off
fought
but
Pargev.
Two title shots.
That's where I was getting at.
But did he deserve a third shot?
Bro, when you lose to Pargev, to me, that's just different. Like, I don't know.
But it's a
when
good
you lose to
storyline.
Pargev, you're winning.
I still think Zane, right, losing to Pargev. I don't know if I necessarily love the fight, just Zane coming off 2 losses. They are to Pargev, but it's a cool storyline for Rayshawn, and there's a build up to that. And if this guy Rayshawn's fighting for the belt, this is the last guy to beat him. So maybe we would have to see what
TK doesn't like it.
I like it because Slim Reaper. I think Rayshawn Rowland would want it. I mean, He hit
And
him
he
with
looked amazing
he
in
hit
his
him with
last
that
fight.
big slam, and he got caught in the armbar against Zane Palacio. But he had surgeon-like precision last time. He was fighting as someone with his stature and build should. He was using the range. He was working off the jab. He looked fantastic. But, you know, just like Pargev, what if you never gave Pargev that chance to erase that Salazar loss? You know, he might be still looking back instead of looking forward. So
Sure.
this might be something that Rayshawn Roland would really want.
Do you like the fight being made?
I like it because we never really saw who the better man was. I mean,
Sure.
yeah, it was a great counter into an armbar. It was a great thinking move by Palacio, and he got the submission. But it wasn't. We didn't get to. We got the appetizer. We didn't get the main course out of those two.
Sure. All right. Well, let's
You were
wrap
saying
this thing up.
Okay, but you were saying Fetty. What were we gonna say?
Fetty is most likely on the card too.
Okay.
I mean, there's a bunch, but should we give out too many spoilers right now? Is that what we're doing?
Look, I think you should tease people to come to the show.
Oh, by
in
the
May.
way, Arshak Dadorian, his camp wants us to refer to him as Arshak Dadorkian. They want us to make fun of him
no,
every time he fights.
I will
Yeah.
not. Actually, me and Arshak are tight.
Yeah.
I love Arshak.
Arshak laughs at that, so it's an inside
Yeah,
joke.
I'm a big fan of Arshak's. I'm a big fan of everybody, as Ryan always says. But
Well, you can tell everyone you're the biggest fan of them, but you can't
listen,
be the
I do
biggest
that.
fan
It's
of
just
them.
like I tell both my granddaughters, they're each my favorite.
But we know
right?
they're not.
Like,
We know they're
come
not
on.
each your favorite, though.
Come on.
We
You
know.
know,
We know.
Who's your
we-
favorite
we
between
know
me
who
and
your
TK?
favorite.
You're both my favorite.
Ah.
for different
This
for
guy's so
different
politically
reasons.
correct.
Yeah.
So annoying.
I know we have to wrap it up, but I do want to ask this because I mean, obviously we're on YouTube right now, right? What did you guys think of the live undercard being on YouTube, and have you gotten a response from that? You know,
Yeah, I think we got like 6,000 plus views somewhere in that area. I thought it was pretty cool to do that. Again, we're just trying to do different things, create more fans for UNF, and give people something for free. What did you think, Ryan?
No, I personally liked it. I mean, I thought it was cool that maybe some people that don't buy the pay-per-views for the pricing reason or whatever it may be got to see our production, our work, and maybe became fans of UNF. Got to see you guys in action, which was cool. I think you guys killed it also, by the way, rewatching it. So I thought it was cool. I think it's good for fan interaction, and you know, yeah.
What did
But
you
we will
guys
never,
think?
we won't put the full cards out there for free. That's for
Just
sure.
a taste.
Yeah,
Just a
just-
taste.
just-
Just the appetizers, TK would
well,
say.
yeah, I thought it was great, and it was a you know, big commercial for the rest of the card, and I
Sure.
mean those that bought the pay-per-view on Star Fun, you know, got 11 other great fights, 6 title fights. None of the title fights were on the, you
Right.
know, and that's something that is done in this sport, the prelims airing, you know, other places for free. I think it was a good move. It's gonna
Look at us, like conducting ourselves like we're a real show. It's
gonna help build the brand.
build the brand.
Double B.
We should get it where you guys can maybe see the YouTube live chat, so you guys could talk. Go to people
Yeah.
so they can
That'd be
talk
fun,
about
yeah.
it. It would be kind of
Sure.
cool.
I'm sure they weren't too happy with me, so no, I hate the live chat.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for everything that you do, man. I'm looking forward to another great show in May. It's going to be really hard to top this show.
Yeah.
23.
Definitely.
We've said that a lot around here, and
Hey, it
somehow
keeps
we
getting better.
always do. Yes, sir.
This is true. Thanks, you guys.
Thank
All
you.
right. Fight family on 3.
1, 2, 3, fight family! Like, comment, subscribe, whatever you're supposed to do on YouTube.
All that.